Well, good morning, everyone. I am Tim Kernan alongside Mike Freshwater. Welcome to another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. We are once again coming to you live from the My Favorite Muffin. Mike, we can't do it at the Gamecast Radio Sports Talk studios. It's just too cold outside.
What does it have to do with the studios?
Well, the studio is in my garage.
Right. No, I think it's a good move. It's really, really cold out there. I think 4 degrees when I got out of my car, -2 at the wind chill. So I park as close as I can so I can go from garage to car and car to the muffin and not have to deal with it too much. But thank God it's coming to an end later this week. We're going to get a little bit of a thawing out. I think it's going to be like 47 on Wednesday or Thursday. So I never looked so forward to 47 degrees in my life. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's been fairly mild up to this point, but the last couple of weeks have been really cold. But yeah, 4 degrees. I saw that on my dashboard as we were driving over here to set up this morning. But want to send a big thank you out again to Carrie and Ted Thompson for hosting us again this morning. Again, we're at the My Favorite Muffin. They're in the Crosspoint Center at the corner of Route 48 and Alex Bell. And
love My Favorite Muffin. My grandkids love it. My family loves it. We come here all the time and highly recommend it. Great bagel sandwiches, great muffins, and big ones and mini ones, and tremendous selection of flavor coffee. I love it here.
Yeah, absolutely. Great place, especially to come in the morning, Mike. They're only open till 2, I believe.
So this week it's the My Favorite Muffin podcast, right? Is that what you're...
Sponsored by My Favorite
Sponsored by.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we have a very large agenda. I don't know that we'll get to all of this.
A lot happened this week, man.
Yeah, it's funny when I put all this, the agenda together. It's sometimes I'm afraid that things are going to be outdated even within a day.
The last 2 weeks,
so many things happen.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been insane in terms of events and news on and off the field, and gives us guys a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. You know what? I want to jump into college football, but I also, for our Alter listeners, I mention it every podcast, but you and I broadcast for Alter High School, so want to do a quick update on that. I'll allow you to update the boys, but also wanted to update the girls. They're having a great season as well. They're 13-2 right now.
Yeah.
5-0 in the GCL, and
are they? Where are they ranked in the state right now? Are they 1 or 2 probably?
I think they were 3 the last time I saw. But
and the boys are 2. So what other program has both their boys and girls programs in the top 3 in the state? Can't think of another one. I'd have to look real hard at the polls or the rankings, but I can't imagine there being another program out there that has their boys and girls in the top 3 in the state, their respective divisions.
Yeah, it's funny, but my oldest daughter went through Alter and played basketball, and her class struggled a little bit at Alter. They were very good. They defended well. They were in a lot of games, but they just couldn't score enough. But I had my middle daughter Caroline was a freshman when my daughter Katie was a senior, and her class was very talented, and you could see it change. You could see the talent coming full circle,
mm-hmm.
and then a couple of classes behind Caroline, you could really see that they had a chance to do something special. They did in 2022, won the state championship. Thought last year that they had a really good shot at repeating, but Baden got in the way and defeated them in the regional semifinal. But this year as well, they have a really, really strong senior class, but a great supporting cast as well, kind of like there was in 2022. So I think they got a real shot this year, Mike, to make a deep run in the tournament.
Dropping down a division, which isn't going to hurt them,
yeah.
Right? So I think state championship is definitely in their future.
Absolutely. So, and you and I, of course, called the boys' game last night. They went out to 6-0. In the GCL, which of course is the first goal. You want to win the GCL, but they're ranked number 2 in the state and looking very solid as well.
Yeah, he bounced back after a couple losses to like top-notch, top-level teams. Won and flying to the hoop against the 28th ranked team in the country. Lost by 1 there, 72-71. Then played our third game in 3 days, fourth game in 6 days, Sunday, over at the Battle of 614 at Ohio Dominican University, and played a really, really good Westerville North team, top 10 in the state, D1. Just tremendous defensively. Maybe the best we've seen all season. Not maybe, they are the best we've seen all season in terms of their defense. And the Knights just kind of ran out of gas. That was a 5 or 6 point game with 3 or 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and then at the bottom fell out a little bit. But we learned from it, got better, used it as fuel, I think, going into last night. And as we start our second swing through the league, went down to McNick after beating them by around 20 back in December, beat them by almost 30 last night at McNick, which is a really hard place to play. And the boys played really, really well, and kind of made a statement, I think, across the league with that win in terms of the margin. And so now have a week off from games. We will practice Monday through Friday, and then head down to Wheeling, West Virginia on Saturday to take on an 11-0 Lindsley Prep school. A really
another
good team.
tough game.
Yeah, another tough game. And but with wins like last night, and others, and then if we happen to win Saturday, just build up our RPI ranking and just keep building our case for number one seed in the district when we get there, in our part of the district when we get to the tournament. And so, on a roll again, back on a roll again, and hopefully we can have a good week of practice and keep it going next Saturday down in West Virginia.
Well, and I thought you mentioned it, but last week 4 games in 6 days, and but they had a game last night, but they have another week to rest. So I think it's a good. It'll be a good period for the boys to maybe rest the bones a little bit, get fresh, and then head into the latter part of the season here and gear up for the tournament.
Yeah, I can't believe how fast it's gone. It's just insane.
Crazy.
I mean, how many podcasts have we done now? 21 or
this is the 21st. Yeah,
it's just insane. It feels like we just started, and you're in the GameCast radio studios not too long ago.
I know, it's great. So hopefully everybody's enjoying it. And that reminds me, folks, if you get a chance, kind of sign up. Subscribe to the podcast and let us know how we're doing. If there are things that you want us to cover, let us know. That would be great. Mike, want to jump into college football? I kind of want to lead with, I don't know if you saw this, but Cam McCormick was approved to play his 9th year of college football. That's crazy. He's 25 years old. You would think he'd be older, but he's 25 years old. Started his career at Oregon, transferred to Miami, still at Miami. He was a 3-star recruit in 2016 by 247 Sports. Started his career in Oregon in 2016, but suffered season-ending injuries that caused him to miss parts or all of 2018, 2019, 2020, and the 2021 season. So he's going to get his 9th year playing for University of Miami in Florida.
So how many degrees you end up with when that's all said and done? I mean, that's...
he's got to be like PhD by that point.
He's living life, man. I'm sure he's getting a little bit of NIL and probably taking one class or whatever the bare minimum is that you need to take to stay eligible, probably in a second or third graduate program. And I say more power to him. I know it sounds stupid, but I mean, why not? I mean, we would all do the same thing if we were given the chance.
I have no problem with
right? And so it is an oddity that the COVID season doesn't help with that. That was a year that everybody was given in terms of their eligibility back. And so I think these really, inordinate numbers of guys playing, and I think it's going to start to die off just a little bit because the COVID year thing is going to be gone. But still, it's insane. It's the same number of years.
Well, and I totally agree with you. Why not do it? He seems to be a fairly talented tight end. I don't know that he'll have that much opportunity in the pros, so why not? I mean, if you love the game, which I'm sure he does, and you get approval from the NCAA, why not play?
I would. I'd stay in college for 9 years if I could have afforded it.
Didn't you stay in 9 years anyway?
It took 8. I stuck around and got a part-time job for my 9th year.
I want to jump into Michigan a little bit, Mike. Harbaugh, of course. Everybody kind of speculated at the end of the season that he would kind of jump into the coaching interviewing carousel, and he has. I know that he's interviewed with a couple of teams, the or the Chargers, of course. But, I wanted to ask you, who do you think would be the candidates for that Michigan job if he decides to leave? I know Sharon Moore, who was the assistant coach who took over, but they're also rumored that maybe Brian Kelly's interested. That to me just is head scratching.
I mean, they're pretty famous. They did try to go outside the Michigan family when they hired Rich Rodriguez, and that didn't go very well. They're pretty adamant about having a Michigan man as a coach there. And Harbaugh's going to take some of that staff with him when he goes to California. But you would think Sharon Moore is the leading candidate. The kids all liked him, and he obviously had good success at the end of the season there. Though during his first 3-game suspension, they used 3 different coaches on the sidelines just to give them that experience. But you would think he'd be the leading candidate. But if they open it up and take interviews or take applications, who knows, jumps into the mix there, and it'll be interesting. But if what happens there, like what's been happening in Alabama with Nick Saban leaving, I mean, Katie barred the door.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go to hell in a handbasket real fast.
It really does create a domino effect, doesn't
and
it?
I think it's probably a foregone conclusion. I mean, he interviewed with the Chargers and at Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not doing that if he's not interested. No. I don't think he's doing that just to build his case, and get Michigan to offer him a better deal, though there were rumors he wanted a term and condition in this contract that would give him total immunity from any NCAA infractions going forward. That's not something they would do, I wouldn't think. But it's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. But it should happen in the next, I would think, in the next week or so, because the Chargers have to. And then Michigan has to be able to move on and go forward without him if that's the case.
And other candidates that are, rumored as possibly being the next coach at Michigan: Lance Leopold out of Kansas, Jesse Minter, the Michigan defensive coordinator, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, Todd Monken, the Raiders offensive coordinator. So, we'll certainly see how that develops. But also wanted to mention, Mike, that and most people might know this, but Blake Corum and J.J. McCarthy declared for the NFL draft.
Good riddance.
So as a Ohio State fan, I'm sure that you're happy about that. I was kidding. I think J.J. McCarthy is a very good quarterback. I don't know that he is as great as Harbaugh says he is, but I was really impressed with Corum.
Yeah, well, McCarthy, first of all, McCarthy might make a nice backup quarterback, a career backup quarterback in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with that. Corum's going to get a chance. He is a solid running back, and he's going to get drafted. I don't know how high, but we all know the story behind running backs and how they're a dime a dozen. But anyway, it should be interesting to see what happens to them. And overall, Michigan, as these things start to unfold, they may be back to square one, and they may have a tough couple of years ahead of them if Harbaugh leaves and they lose a ton of players.
Yeah, absolutely. So that situation is developing literally as we speak, and we'll keep updating the folks on that one. But my mom, I don't know where that came from, but Mike, I wanted to jump into Alabama, of course. We talked a little bit about this last week, but Kalen DeBoer is now at Alabama, and I sent you a meme this week.
That was great.
But it was him at an Alabama meeting, and there's absolutely no players sitting in the crowd.
John Travolta from that movie where he's looking. He walks in. He's going to be on a date or something, and he walks in and just starts looking around like nobody's there. And that was a good one, man. I really liked it. I don't know who thinks of these things.
I don't know. But
somebody somewhere sitting around just thinking of these funny things.
I can't remember. That was a bizarre movie. I can't remember the name of it, but I mean. It happens all the time, but boy, what a domino effect it was when Nick Saban decided to retire, Mike. And I was thinking a little bit about this, and I want to get your feelings on it. But I literally think that, Alabama certainly rode the coattails of Nick Saban to where they are. They've always been a great program. But I would even submit to you, Mike, that the SEC is riding the coattails of Nick Saban.
Well, building Alabama up like you did, and basically becoming the best best college coach of all time, that builds up the conference. It gives them a lot of exposure. Alabama, and I can tell you that they hired DeBoer so quickly. They got him in place in just a matter of 2 or 3 days, and I know one of the reasons why they did that was to try to keep all these guys from jumping ship. But the last list I saw, they've got like 10 dudes, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but they got like 10 guys, 4- and 5-star prospects have entered the transfer portal, and a couple have gone to SEC competitors, and 1 or 2 to Ohio State, and so it's going to be tough for them to recover. It's going to take a year or two. Well, first of all, they're not going to be anywhere near what they were with Nick Saban. Those days are over. They're not going to be dominant like that ever again. He is one of a kind. But with all these guys leaving, they're going to be they themselves are going to be needing to hit the transfer portal and try to pick up what's left out there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough road to hoe for the next couple of years down there. And there's not going to be a whole lot of patience in Tuscaloosa for DeBoers, but they're going to have to be, because it's going to take a couple of years for him to build that team back up to anywhere near where it was before. And well, good luck with that, right?
Well, not only is it almost impossible to replace a guy like that, but you mentioned it. You made a great point, especially with the way things are now with the portal and all the transferring and things going on like that. I think it is almost going to be impossible for anyone to even come close to accomplish what Saban did.
Not even close. It won't happen again.
Yeah.
Certainly not in our lifetimes, and maybe never. He was one of a kind, and it's not an easy place, I would think. Not a real easy place to recruit kids, especially these days. Who wants to go to Tuscaloosa, right? But he got it done, and we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. There's not a whole lot of guys that can come in and fill the shoes of an absolute legend and have success themselves. Typically, it takes a couple, 2 or 3 different dudes, finally to come in there and put the past behind them and get them back on the right track. And so we'll see what happens, but I don't expect much out of Alabama for the next couple, 2 or 3 years.
He's a great coach. We'll see what happens. I admire him for giving it a shot, and stepping in there and giving it a shot, but he's a great coach.
Yep.
But Mikey was quoted as saying, "I have always had an incredible respect for Alabama football and its commitment to excellence. The tradition-rich history of this program is unmatched across the landscape of college athletics, and I look forward to continuing that moving forward. Following Coach Saban is an honor. He has been the standard for college football, and his success is unprecedented." So totally agree with that statement. Good luck to him. Again, humongous shoes to fill, and as you said, always very, very difficult to follow a legend like that. But Mike, Washington moved very quickly. They hired Jed Fish out of Arizona. He coached at Arizona from 21 through 23. Prior to his tenure at Arizona, Fish served as an assistant coach for the New England Patriots, Los Angeles Rams, and the University of California at Los Angeles, which of course is UCLA. Had some other jobs, but here's a guy that had some success, and he takes over a Washington program that is in very solid standing. I haven't seen a lot of movement at Washington as far as transfers and guys taken off because DeBoer left, but that he takes over an interesting position. Washington is they're not where they were when DeBoer took over.
No, but the difference now is that Washington's moving into the Big Ten, and that schedule that they're going to have, and I haven't looked at it specifically, but I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit tougher than it has been while DeBoer was there, and so he's got a big test ahead of him there in terms of adjusting to that, and it's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do to keep them at the level DeBoer took them, and we're going to see a lot more of them here in the Midwest because of that Big Ten participation, and so it'll be interesting, and we'll be following really closely.
Yeah, and along with all the coaching changes going on in college, there's a whole handful of them going on in the pros as well. We mentioned Harbaugh,
half the league,
of course.
I think.
And Mike, there's an interesting website. I don't really look to tout other websites here on our show, but it's called thehuddle.com, and it has a coaching change tracker.
Wow.
And if you look kind of in your packet there, I did include it, or I think
Yeah,
I did.
it's
But
there. Yeah.
anyways, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Raiders, Chargers, Patriots, who the Patriots already hired Jared Mayo, but the Seahawks, Titans, and Commanders. So a lot of coaching changes going on in the NFL. And, when I went through this, Mike, a lot of the same names are on everybody's
it's
list.
almost like an old boys network sometimes when it comes to how the NFL recycles coaches, but also some new guys and guys getting chances like Jared Mayo, who was an assistant at New England for a significant amount of time. But these guys, these teams have got to get guys named and in place relatively quickly here because, once the Super Bowl rolls around, teams are going to be solidly in the process of planning for next year, and a lot of openings, which means there's a lot of openings for assistants. It's going to be hard to keep track of, but I like the fact that you have this. I'm going to have to check this out. This website might make it a little bit easier for all of us to kind of do that. And so, huddle.com, huh? I'll check it out.
Thehuddle.com.
Huddle.
And, they're tracking it all, and certainly it just goes on and on. Okay.
That's weird.
I'm not sure what I can do about it. Okay. I don't know what I can do about it. Just for about another half hour.
Okay, well, that's something we definitely need to figure out. Yeah.
We had a temporary interruption here. We are conflicting with another shop here. We'll see if we can get that
Where's it
figured
going?
out. I think it's going over into another shop that's hooked up or on the side of
That's strange.
this. So, well, we'll get it figured out. But
Turn
Mike,
the volume down. No, not us.
yeah,
Wherever they're at.
So, anyways. We were talking about the coaching changes in the NFL, but again, a lot of the same names. But if you want to follow that, try thehuddle.com, and they have a coaching tracker there, and it's a extremely fluid situation, Mike. It's just changing by the
Extremely
hour.
fluid.
So, Mike, let's go ahead and jump into just the playoffs. I wanted to mention this first as well. Yeah, the playoffs. But I also wanted to get your reaction on the Browns. We don't need any more reaction from me on the Bengals. Certainly, they are done. But the Browns took on the Texans last weekend. They lost 45-14, and strange game. I found myself rooting for the Browns, but they just never seemed to be in that game.
My general observation was all those injuries ended up catching up to them. I think they had 3 more offensive linemen go down in that game, and all that just finally caught up to them. I'm going to err on the side of giving the Texans a lot of credit. They seemed like they were really well prepared for that. They kind of understood and know Joe Flacco's shortcomings, and it seemed like their defense was prepared for all of that. And so I'm just going to give the Texans a lot of credit. And the Browns made it to the playoffs. That was a super nice accomplishment. But I think all the injuries and having to travel to go to the game, all that caught up to them finally. And so it's onward and upward from here for them, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the Texans played very well, and they seemed to have an answer for everything that the Browns were trying to do. But a great season for the Browns. I thought the coaching staff did a phenomenal job of filling in the holes, and with all the injuries. But I thought the Browns did a fantastic job this season. Disappointment at the end, but overall a great season for the Browns.
Yep.
Mike, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Wanted to get your feelings on that. It's an incredible what a collapse that both of those teams had at the end of the season. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
That's absolutely an incredible collapse, especially for the Eagles. They started the season at 10-1 and lost 6 of their last 7. In that last game, they weren't even in it, really. They haven't decided, I don't think, yet 100% what they're going to do with their head coach. I would be surprised if they made changes there. But the Eagles have been known to make changes. Almost every other year it feels like they're getting a new head coach no matter what the results are. And so I think that It'll be interesting to see what they do. The Cowboys announced they're keeping Mike McCarthy on as their head coach. It feels like they're close. They just haven't been able to get over the hump when it comes to the playoffs. But
Playoffs.
but they, it's an interesting. I was just so glad it happened because it kind of took the heat off the Browns and them losing the way they did on Saturday. And then all of a sudden, here comes Dallas and the Eagles and big high-profile teams, obviously nationwide. And so they both got their hats handed to them. And so I'm a big fan and rooting for the Lions now and the Buccaneers. And so I'm really excited about that and to watch that. But I'm not a big fan of either, and so I'm not like thrilled they lost, but it doesn't bother me.
You seem
whatsoever.
very disappointed, Mike. No, Dallas just couldn't win on the road. They could not win away from Dallas, and then they dropped one to the Packers, obviously at Jerry's World. So Dallas out of the playoffs, and
Playoffs.
it looked terrible doing it. But anyways, Mike, games today, January the 20th, Texans at the Ravens at 4 o'clock. And then the Packers will be at the 49ers at 8:15 tonight. Two interesting games there, certainly. I think the Ravens have to be big favorites, but the Texans playing very well. And on paper, you would look at that Packers-49ers game, and certainly the 49ers would be the favorite. But, boy, Packers really playing well here at the end.
Yeah, I think if I had to look at those two games, I would say the Packers have a better chance of winning than the Texans do. I think the Ravens are probably going to be in good shape there today at home. And but both those are two good games. Looking forward to watching them today and enjoying those games and rooting for the Texans and the Packers, I guess, if I had to pick rooting interest in those games.
I would have to go with that as well. And then tomorrow, 21st, Buccaneers at the Lions and the Chiefs at the Bills. Two very interesting games there.
Very interesting.
I, of course, would love to see the Lions win it all. So the Lions.
Ditto. Even though I got my Buccaneers hat on today, I am rooting for the Lions and would love to see them win their Super Bowl. Really happy for their fans and I'm happy for all of these fans who have their teams in the playoffs. My nephew, Kevin Winland, is a Packers fan. He's excited. I think he's up there for that game or going to be going to the game maybe or watching it somewhere, I'm sure. And other friends of mine who are Lions fans, long-suffering Lions fans.
Yeah.
And a side note about Detroit, you saw this earlier, University of Detroit is like 0-19, something like that in basketball
Detroit
this year.
Mercy, yeah.
And the Pistons are like 4-37. So can you imagine how miserable it would be in Detroit right now if the Lions weren't having the success?
Oh.
It'd be awful.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw that story, but it was out on Twitter, I think. But they were talking about signing Barry Sanders to a one-day contract.
That's just the dumbest, stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Can you imagine?
No, that'd be like
him running out onto the field. That's like me running out there.
Well, it'd be like the Bengals signing Ickey Woods, or the Browns getting Ernest Biner and dressing him for one game so they could say that he got a championship or something stupid.
Oh, that was hilarious. Then the Chiefs are at the Bills. The Chiefs in unfamiliar territory, Mike, having to travel.
Yeah.
And they'll go up against the Bills. I like the Bills in that one. I think the Bills are finally going to turn the corner there.
I like the Chiefs in that game only because the Bills have so many injuries defensively. And Josh Allen's due to turn it over, leading the league in turnovers and interceptions and fumbles. But their defense is pretty banged up. I know it's in Buffalo, but I actually like the Chiefs in that game. I think they're playing really well, and their defense is really, really good. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not saying I'm rooting for the Chiefs, though. I like when Joe Tooney wins, but I definitely think the Chiefs have a solid chance. If not, they're going to win that game.
Well, and I was just going to mention we would be remiss if we did not mention Joe Tooney. He went to Ultra High School here in town, the team that we call games for.
Yeah.
All-Pro.
First team All-Pro.
Joe Tooney.
All NFL first team, his first time, and that's it's exciting and outstanding for him. It's going to be interesting to see what his future is as his contract starts to wind down in Kansas City. We'd love to see him in either orange and black or orange and brown.
Orange and black, please. I would love it.
We'll see. I think he does kind of like almost prefer to get closer to home. And I know he wants a chance to win yet another Super Bowl. What's he got? 2 or 3 rings already, played in like 4 or 5 of them. But Joe's a great kid. Coached him in basketball when he was at Alder, and I hope that nothing but the best for him. And it's the reason why I'm definitely okay with the Chiefs winning.
Well, and he wants to play for a team that
Has a
will
chance.
compete and
Yep.
have a chance, but he
Yep.
certainly would help a team out.
Yes, he would.
Be that team that has a
It
chance.
was
to win
almost the
Super Bowl.
Bengals the last time around, but they were too cheap.
Yeah.
They didn't give him the money he needed, so he went off to Kansas City.
Well,
Wasn't
I
a bad
hope
choice
they
at the end of the
changed
day
it.
because
No.
they won a Super Bowl
He
right
got
after
another
that.
one.
Yeah.
2 with the Patriots and 1 with the Chiefs. Is that correct?
2 with the Patriots. Did you say 2 with the Patriots
2
and 1
with
with
the
the Chiefs?
Patriots?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so that wraps it up for this weekend. Then, of course, next weekend, both games will be on Sunday, Mike, on the 28th, the AFC Conference Championship and the NFC Conference Championship. And I think it kind of depends on who wins when those games will be on, or as far as time-wise. So time and location certainly to be determined there. And then the Super Bowl, that will wrap it up for the NFL season. That will be on the 11th of February, and I did not know where that is. Do you know where it is this season? Is that out?
Raiders.
Out in
Vegas.
Las Vegas?
It's in
Yeah,
Vegas.
that's what I thought. So, all right, Mike. The show that we do is mostly about Ohio State and Notre Dame, so I wanted to get into a little bit of Ohio State and Notre Dame. We'll start with Notre Dame, but today I wanted to kind of go over what you kind of feel as far as Ohio State, and I'll go over Notre Dame, but what we kind of feel like they underachieved in, what we believe they achieved in, and maybe what they overachieved in. And, and that can go in any direction, really, Mike, as far as, the recruiting, the play, the coaching, anything. But I'll start with Notre Dame, and I'll start with underachieving. I think Notre Dame underachieved in the big games. I don't think that they won the big games on their schedule. They did defeat USC, of course, at home, and at the time USC was ranked pretty high and undefeated. So that was a big game, but USC turned out to be a pretty big disappointment. Notre Dame lost to Ohio State at home. Had every chance in the world to win that game, but give credit to Ohio State. They made the plays at the end, and they just didn't win the big games they had to. They then went on the road and lost to Clemson. So I think they underachieved a little bit as far as wins and losses. Where I think Notre Dame achieved, they achieved on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defense is elite. I think they have the players on that defensive side of the ball. Even for next year, I think that their defense is still going to be elite. I think that they have a couple of spots to fill. I think they did pretty good in the portal. I would throw the portal in the achieve column as well. They have done very well with who they have signed, Riley Leonard and R.J. Oben out of Duke, Jordan Clark, a cornerback out of Arizona State, Chris Mitchell, a very good wide receiver out of Florida International, Bo Collins out of Clemson, Jaden Harrison out of Marshall, who was an All-American kickoff returner, and Mitch Jeter, of course, just a kicker out of South Carolina, but a very accurate kicker. So I would kind of throw that in the achieve column. Overachieve, I'm not sure. You could possibly put the defense in that column as well. Maybe they overachieved a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, but very good defense they had this year, and maybe Xavier Watts, who was the safety for Notre Dame, maybe he overachieved a little bit. He was an All-American, came to Notre Dame as a wide receiver, but turned out to be the Bronco Nagurski Award winner, who was the Defensive Player of the Year. So a lot to work on for Notre Dame. Underachieved, I think, as well in the quarterback position. They had a lot of expectations from the quarterback out of Wake Forest that came to Notre Dame. But I think he did okay. I think he turned out to be a pretty good individual and a Notre Dame man, but maybe didn't quite perform to the expectations. But
Yeah, I don't think so.
coaching, I would put coaching as maybe achieve. I think there's certainly room for growth there. They made some changes in the offseason at the wide receiver position coach, and they hired Mike Denbrock out of LSU. So I think there's certainly room to grow there as far as coaching, but I think Freeman, who was a first-time head coach hired by Notre Dame a couple of years ago, he'll go into his third season. the third season is always a huge season at Notre Dame, certainly in terms of past coaches and national championships and things. So the arrow's pointing up, but I think that there's also room there for some growth and some experience, and really to put his kind of touch on the program in year 3.
I think we've talked about this, I think, in terms of what their future looks like the last few weeks. I think the arrow is definitely up, and I think they have a lot to prove next season, and I like where they're going. I like Coach Freeman, and so I think they made all the right moves this offseason, and maybe there's a few more in their bag of tricks. Who knows? But I think the future is bright for Notre Dame. I haven't seen their schedule for next week. I'm sure it's pretty much the same as it has been in the past, but they got to win those big games early.
Yeah, that's the
right?
biggest thing. Got to win them.
Yep.
And I think certainly the playoffs, being extended out to 12 teams will help Notre Dame.
Oh, absolutely.
And they should
Absolutely.
be in there every year. That should definitely be the goal, is
Yes.
to make the playoffs
At Notre
every
Dame,
season.
yes, that is the standard.
So, Mike, Ohio State has hired Bill O'Brien to
Yeah.
be the offensive coordinator of
Tremendous.
Ohio State.
Tremendous.
Maybe give your overall diagnosis of the program.
Well, I think getting Bill O'Brien's just absolutely tremendous. Obviously, Ryan Day is now relinquishing a ton of responsibility from an offensive perspective to him. This guy comes with unbelievable experience, both at the NFL level and at the college level, and knows the Big Ten, knows the Midwest. That's just a tremendous hire. He's going to help in so many different ways. He's also going to be the quarterback coach with help from Ryan Day, I'm sure. But offensive coordinator, quarterback coach Bill O'Brien, that's an exciting hire. I don't see how anybody can be negative about that. I'm sure he's getting paid, and so the expectations are pretty high. But really, really excited about.
Yeah, I don't think that's
That
a volunteer position.
And then their portal, their portal kids are high-profile guys. Bringing in Will Howard, Quinshaw Junkins, maybe the best, if not the top 2 or 3 running backs out of the SEC. Seth McLaughlin, the center from Alabama, the tight end from Marshall that they picked up supposedly as a really good prospect. And then just announcing yesterday that they got Caleb Downs, the freshman safety from Alabama,
Huge
who
pickup.
led them in tackles, and I think is an All-American as a freshman. That is a tremendous pickup for them. Their defense, and if you look at all the guys that are coming back, they were returning like 8 or 9 starters. And if you look at the guys that are coming back, getting this dude will let them move Sonny Styles up to the linebacker position. And I just looked at their lineup, their roster, or what do you want to call it, the 11 guys expected to start for them, or the top 12 or 13 that are expected to play defense for them coming into this next season. It on paper has the chance to be, assuming everybody stays relatively healthy, it on paper has the chance to be the best defense ever at Ohio State, which is obviously saying a lot. To combine them with, put that together with Jim Knowles, who's coming back as a defensive coordinator. There was some talk about him leaving to go somewhere else and be a head coach, but that hasn't materialized. So to put those 12, 13, 14 guys with a defensive coordinator like that, I just don't know how you can. That's spectacular. And so again, expectations will be really, really high, mostly because of that. It's offensively, they're now talking about, and Ohio State made a trip down to visit the 5-star quarterback that Alabama has, who's entering the transfer portal. I can't imagine them bringing that dude on with what they already have in that room. But there's still some things to happen, I think, for them. But they are looking really, really good. And we all went from being like just a little bit frustrated after that bowl game, which I didn't put a whole lot of stake in to begin with. But right after that bowl game, to looking at where we are now with what Ryan Day has been able to do from a coaching perspective. There have been other changes with the coaching staff, but with the coaching changes and these portal dudes and the recruiting class they got coming in, they currently are the third betting favorite to win the national championship behind Georgia and Alabama. But that Alabama, I haven't
That
looked.
one might change.
I got to look at that today because I guarantee you that's probably changed by now already. So Ohio State might have slid into the second favorite to win the national championship after all these changes this week behind Georgia. And speaking of which, I mean, with Alabama gone, who's going to challenge Georgia in the SEC, right? I mean, that's
I know the LSU fans will say it will be them, but they have a hill to climb. But yeah,
who's their head coach?
You gotta
again?
believe that Georgia.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly.
But yeah, I mean, Ohio State's made all the right moves, and as far as underachieving, achieving, overachieving, I mean, I think they at least achieved, if not slightly overachieved, achieved defensively this year. I think overall they underachieved offensively, and your only real measure for that is the Michigan game. They just couldn't move the ball and score when they really needed to do. Statistically, if you look at their results for the whole season, they weren't bad. They were one of the top couple offenses in the conference, but the Michigan game was where they failed. And so they probably underachieved offensively, but big changes there coming. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for next season already, and can't wait to see what happens. But they've made all the right moves the last month or so, Tim, since that debacle in the Cotton Bowl, and you talk about arrows pointing up. Arrows are definitely pointing up now for the Buckeyes.
Oh, definitely agree. The big signing of Bill O'Brien and all the players that I don't know if you've mentioned all those, but Will Howard, the quarterback out of Kansas State, Quinshaw Judkins, the running back out of Ole Miss. That's a good signing there. And you mentioned Seth McLaughlin out of Alabama, Will, and I think it's Kasmerick,
yes,
the tight end out of Ohio from the Bobcats. And if they get Caleb Downs, wow, that.
Well, they have. That was announced.
Oh, that
was announced last night.
Okay, it was official. Okay,
yeah, they've announced that last night. In fact, when we got done broadcasting, I got on the bus and looked at my phone, and it said Caleb Downs is officially a Buckeye. So.
I mean, that just absolutely makes the back end of the Ohio State defense pretty locked down.
I mean, they're
that opens up so many opportunities for the linebackers and the defensive line that you're going to be able to go man coverage and just tee off. So
yeah, and like I said, Sonny Styles will be able to play more of a traditional linebacker position, and that dude's just an animal. And hopefully it means also that C.J. Hicks, the Ultra alum, gets into the mix some next year and gets to play some meaningful moments. So. Man, I wish the season started tomorrow. I'm ready to go right now, but we've got a long wait.
It is crazy, but it'll roll around quickly, Mike.
It does.
They'll be starting spring practice soon, and we'll have a lot more to talk about.
Yep, I agree.
Well, Mike, I think we should probably just go ahead and jump into the segment of the show that I call Yes, No, Maybe. And then we'll wrap it up for today. But this is the part of the show where I make a statement, and then Mike and I determine whether we agree, disagree, or possibly agree. So, Mike, here's the first statement for today. Football has replaced baseball as America's pastime.
Well, I don't know about the pastime part, but definitely as the number one sport, especially the NFL. I think it's the number one sport in America. Baseball's still going to be the pastime just because, of the nature of the sport and the fact it's played during the summer and all that kind of thing. But I don't think there's any doubt that NFL is the number one sport. It's year round. I mean, the way they've planned their schedule, the draft, and
and
free
that's on
agency,
purpose.
absolutely it
yeah.
is. It's basically year round. People talk about it year round, and so that's a yes as far as the the number one sport in America.
Yeah, I will agree, and I think the NFL does a phenomenal job with marketing and how they do that. They certainly space things out, even all the way through to the Hall of Fame game. They just perfectly place things so football is in everyone's face pretty much 365 days a year.
Yep.
So totally agree on that one. Second statement, Michigan will most likely get some sort of punishment for the sign stealing scandal. Jim Harbaugh will not be affected at all by these rulings.
Yes, Michigan's going to get penalized one way or the other beyond what's already happened. And no, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh won't be penalized because he won't be there. He's going to be off to the NFL, just like back when Pete Carroll left USC, kind of in shambles with all the stuff that happened off the field back then. So yeah, Michigan's going to get penalized, but I don't think Jim Harbaugh will suffer whatsoever, other than whatever he personally experiences from an emotional or perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to end up in the catbird seat. Once it's all said and done.
I agree with you. I don't think he'll be affected at all. Maybe a little bit reputation-wise, but it doesn't seem to be hurting him right now as far as him getting opportunities to interview for other positions. And I think Michigan will get a slap on the wrist. I don't think they'll get in trouble too much, especially if there's no way that they can prove that Harbaugh or maybe the organization had knowledge of it. I don't know how they couldn't have, but if they're unable to prove that, and if they determine that Stallings was operating on his own, I think Michigan is just going to get a little slap on the wrist.
It's probably what it'll amount to, but I wish I would wrap it all up, figure it out, and
just get
announce
it
the
over
findings and move forward.
All right, Mike. The best steak is a 9-ounce filet mignon.
Ooh. Well, since I grew up on Salisbury steak, it's definitely not that.
Oh.
Remember those TV dinners with the Swansons with the Salisbury steak and the peas and
God rest
rubbery mashed potatoes?
God rest my father's soul.
You like Salisbury
But he
steak?
used to make, and I hated it.
Did he throw onions on it and all that stuff?
It had it all on there.
Gravy? I'll
gravy.
I'll agree with you on that. I mean, I like them. I like steak. I don't eat it all that often, but if you do eat it, you need to go someplace where you can get a good one, right? And so, but yeah, I'll go with that. Do you put anything on it?
The Paragon here in town.
That's a good one.
They have
I hate to even admit this, but I've never been there.
Oh, you have to go there. They have the most unbelievable filet mignon. The only thing I put on it, Mike, is some of those onion straws, those crispy onions, and
absolutely.
that's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the Paragon does
medium,
it so well.
Rare, medium.
I like it in between medium to medium well. Right in between those two. Slightly,
medium almost well?
Slightly pink. Yeah, medium almost well is probably the way.
I go rare, medium rare.
Yeah, I know. Rare is the way the experts, quote unquote, will tell you to eat it, but I can't eat it rare. It's got to be a little bit more than rare for me.
Yeah,
so. And but I was going to mention probably the most flavorful steak is the New York strip, just because it has a little bit more marble in it.
You're quite a steak connoisseur. Does your wife fix you a lot of steaks for dinner?
I do love me some filet mignon. No, I have to convince her to go to the Paragon.
Since it's your birthday, I think it's a trip to Paragon might be, or you can use that gift card we got from the Oakwood Club. And
the Oakwood Club is also a very good place to get a steak. We actually have 2 gift cards. We have one to the Paragon and one to the Oakwood Club from the football
there you go.
association. So that'll be nice. Okay, final one for the day, Mike. It is better to be really cold than really hot. And that one,
hell no. Hell to the no. Hell to the no.
Yeah, that one was I kind of slipped that in there just because of the way the weather is.
I'd rather be
right?
sitting on the beach in 85-degree weather, sweating my you-know-what's off, than standing outside in this weather right now doing anything.
I absolutely will disagree with this statement. I would rather be hot.
Ted says, I don't know why it's the first time he's ever heard it, but his new expression that he got from me was, the older you get, the colder you get. So, it's, I like the heat. I lived in Fort Lauderdale for 5 years, and it's tropical down there year round. And so I loved it when I was down there, and I wish it was summer here year round. I could do without the winter for sure. And I hate the cold with a passion.
I do hate the cold, and Ted's statement is so accurate. The older you get, just the worse it gets. I mean, this year probably was the worst for me. I can't stand it.
Yeah. They make hot showers for, man. My wife laughs at me for taking a couple of showers a day, but sometimes it's just too warm.
Yeah, just to take a nice hot shower.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with Ted on that comment. But Mike, real quick before we sign off today, real quick, let's go over the pro football games for the weekend. We talked a little bit about it a couple of moments ago, but just get your picks real quick. Texans at Ravens at 4:00 today.
Well, I'm going to take the Ravens and lay those points. The Texans are going to run into a lot of trouble, I think, in this game. I hope I'm wrong about this. I'll be pulling for Texans, but I'm taking the Ravens and laying those points, and but hoping that somehow the Texans can win. Right? If you can't cover, win the games, right? So let's go Texans. But the Ravens and the points are my choice.
I will go with the Ravens as well. I just think the Ravens at home, they're playing so well right now. Just seem to be clicking on all.
Yeah, it's 8.5. So if you're taking the Ravens, you're laying 8.5 points.
I'm still going to go with the Ravens. I think they're going to
9.5. Excuse me.
I think the Texans' road comes to an end today.
Yep.
Packers at 49ers at 8:15.
I like the Packers and the points. They're getting 10 points in that game. These are two crazy spreads for second-round playoff games, but it is the 2 1 seeds that are playing in the Ravens and the 49ers. But I like how the Packers are playing, and I love what Jordan Love is doing now. He looks like a young Brett Favre, which is obviously saying a lot. But I like the Packers plus 10 points tonight out in San Francisco.
I'm going to go with the Packers as well. And what do you call that, Mike, when I'm doing the same thing?
You're tailing me.
I'm tailing you?
You're
okay.
tailing me.
I am tailing you on that one. So let's go over the Sunday games.
You should be fading me because although who's
fading is going the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, who won the NFL piece?
You did.
Yeah. So you should be tailing me. Then.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Buccaneers at the Lions. My heart wants the Lions. What's the line in that one?
6.
Lions plus 6.
Yeah. No, -6.
Oh,
they're
minus
the
6.
favorites. Yeah,
that's what I meant.
I'm going to take Detroit at home in that game. That crowd, that city up there is going to be absolutely insane. I don't know if you saw it or not, but a reporter asked the Tampa Bay head coach, Todd Bowles, how the weather in Detroit was going to affect the team, obviously from Tampa, and he kind of looked at her kind of oddly and said, well, they play in a dome. so they're going to go from their hotel lobby 20 feet onto a bus.
Yeah.
They're going to get off the bus and walk, I don't know, maybe 100 feet to the entrance into the back area where they go to get ready to play. The weather is
has zero effect.
Zero factor.
Yeah.
But I think the Lions, with the crowd, the way it's going to be, the city, just way too much intensity and passion, and I don't think there's any way they lose this game. But do they cover the 6? I think so. I think they win by more than 6, so I'm going to take Detroit.
Yep, I'm going to tell you again, Mike, I'm going to go with the Lions on that one. I think the Lions are going to win that one big. I'm just going to state it right now.
Yeah, they might.
The Lions are going to win
Baker's
that one big.
perfectly capable of turning it over and throwing interceptions. He's had a really good season, obviously. He had a great game last week.
Now, why would you say that?
He's just capable of doing it. A lot of people don't realize this is his 4th team. I mean, he played for the Browns, the Rams for a little while, Carolina, and now Tampa Bay, but he's
seemed to find his home.
He's doing really well down there and leading the team well. And if he plays clean ball, anything can happen. But I think they're going to put some pressure on him, and he's going to he might struggle a little bit against that Detroit defense.
All right, and the final one for the weekend and tomorrow is the Chiefs at the Bills. That's a good way to wrap up the weekend. I would imagine that the Bills are favored in this one. That will be at 6:30.
They are by 2.
Bills
2.5. The Bills are -2.5, and I've already said it. I said it earlier. I like the Chiefs to win that game, let alone just cover. So I'll take the Chiefs plus 2.5 all day long in that game up in Buffalo.
And just for the fun of it, Mike, I will go with the Bills.
Bills Mafia, baby.
I'm going to go with the Bills -2.5. I think the Bills are finally going to get over the hump in that ball game.
The Fighting Joe Toonies are going to come out and
although good
take
luck
charge,
to Joe.
baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.
Number 21.
Number 21. Want to send another thank you out to Carrie and Ted Thompson for hosting us today, Mike.
My favorite muffin, baby.
My favorite muffin. If you are in town and you are close by, absolutely you have to stop in and get a muffin.
Where are we at? The Crosstown?
Cross Point Center.
Cross Point Center. And
at the corner of Route 48 and Alex Bell.
Very close. Not Schwartzel Road and Chicken Bristle.
No. All right, Mike, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Enjoy the sports today, folks, and we'll see you next time for Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Hey, everybody, so long, everybody.